Hey everybody, welcome. So I have Nicole with us here today. She's going to lead us on the energetics of the words that you're going to use. So if you haven't already done the Chat GPT section and ironing out your copy, go back and do that first. And then we're going to pick into how we use certain words and how certain words have a lot of power. And me and Nicole learned this together because she was my first ever client. She's basically my ideal client as well. You'll hear me talk about her quite a lot. So she's the framework I use for when I'm doing my ideal client avatar. And our story is kind of funny because she put out well, I'll let her talk about that a little bit. But basically, she found me by just asking the universe to bring me to her. And I found her by looking at her website. And I got interested in talking to her about something I had going on. And it was basically because of her copy. So the word psychic to me usually would have made me just walk away. And I was like, oh, this looks like a nice lady. And I went to her website and I was like, psychic. Oh, okay, that's interesting. And then read a little bit more, and the copy just blew my mind. And I was like, I got to talk to this lady. So, Nicole had the fanciest funnel you've ever seen, spent a lot of money on it. It wasn't the funnel that got me there, it was the copy. So, the copy, the words, the energetics that you put out there into the universe are so important. That's what's going to attract your client to start with. And then your funnel is going to be what keeps them there and what shows them what you can do. And that's what we're going to go into in the training. But anyway, Nicole is going to help us on the energetics of words. And as we found out, certain words, the word free, and you'll hear me say this a lot, never use free. There's a lot of alternatives, brought us people that weren't aligned with what we needed. So free is
Yes,
going to bring you people looking for free stuff, and they're not going to buy. We found
it's
that out
it's true.
after.
Yeah, I'm still 7 months later clearing out the freebie chasers in the group.
Yeah, and me too. Like my first ad, it was like free this, and all the ads people are using them. It's like do this, we'll give you 60 days free, no charge. It's never free. It's never free, but it brings you people that want free, that literally want free. So that's why I just I got rid of mine, my whole funnel in that regard, and changed it to something new. So we want to help you guys avoid making those same mistakes. And there are other words with other energetics as well that are it's gonna drastically change who you bring in.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna stop talking. Nicole, introduce yourself a little bit and tell us what you're gonna give us today.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here and help y'all avoid some of the very costly mistakes that I made early on in my business. And Ruth was catching me, 5 years down the line, so she's seeing some of the more polished stuff on my end. But as you touched on, Ruth, with the copy, what really got me there was this idea of alignment and energy. That I'm coming from a background of traditional sales and marketing, where, for lack of a better term, it's very toxic masculine. It's very pushy, very salesy, trying to convince people of something. And that was never my jam. And that's why that particular way of doing business never resonated with me, and why I couldn't continue to work for companies that did business like that. And so stepping into what is now last year, 2023, I was really feeling called to step into my own energy. And my own energy at the time was very much rooted and grounded in divine feminine, which is a much softer, gentler approach to things. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a healthy masculine approach, especially if you are indeed identifying as masculine. But for me, I just felt like I wanted to take a more backseat approach and let people come to me rather than me having to chase people down. And like you said, I didn't even know that you actually checked out my whole website, but the copy spoke for itself. So the first thing that I did was really decide, what type of energy do I want to be in? Do I want to be in my masculine? Do I want to be in my feminine? And then every choice that we make, whether that's the colors that we're using, the graphics that we're using, the words that we're using, we're going to approach it from that perspective. So we start there. Questions, comments, concerns before I dive into more of the specifics of that?
Mm. No, no, I had something to say though. Yeah, it was the word psychic. Like it was, I've used psychics in the past, but they always, I think we discussed this too. So they always were found. They never were online. They never said they were psychic. They were just people, and they're like, oh, I'll do you a reading. And those two readings were the same across two different basically locations over many years of the same person that came to me. So it wasn't like I didn't believe in psychic, it was the word psychic. And I remember us talking about it, and it just because there's so much guff online,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And that's a big thing that I talk about in my copy, in my content, in the psychic school that I run is our emotional charge with that particular word. But words in general are very powerful. And like you said, with the word free, it's going to attract freebie chasers. The word psychic, it's either going to attract people who are interested in psychic development, or it's going to repel those that think that people in my industry are, complete baloney. And I'll be real with you. There are people psychics that call themselves psychics out there that aren't legitimate. And you just want to be mindful. Like if you take nothing else away from this conversation, is keep tuning back in to your own guidance, your own wisdom, and discern for yourself what feels right for you. And that's going to go a long way for you, whether you're writing copy or creating your funnel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so with the energetics of that word, it would have repelled me if the rest of the stuff hadn't have aligned so well. So
Mm-hmm.
it was like psychic. I'm like, probably not, and then read the stuff and I was like, oh, okay, I need to talk to this lady.
Yeah.
So it was like the authenticity that came through and all the rest of the stuff that you then said. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this lady
And
too.
I'm actually about to rewrite all that copy. So because it changes, and that's another thing to keep in mind is something could be 100% true for you in the moment, and 6 months later you've grown.
Hmm.
It's natural that the copy is going to want to shift and change. And what happens when we don't let go of the old copy or the old content is we keep attracting that old vibration, and then that's when it starts to feel kind of sticky or yucky in our business, that it's not really bringing you joy anymore, is because of that unwillingness to let go of the past.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I was there with the masculine business. Well, you know the story, right? But for the viewers, I bought the masculine business that was on the same typical sales progress that I had been doing. And I'd been really great at it for 3 years. And then I went through a lot of shifts with Nicole. She's also my mentor in Life, the World, and Everything stuff. And as that Life, the World, and Everything stuff changed, I knew the business needed to change dramatically. It needed to
Yeah.
be more in line with my feminine, a softer approach. And this is
Yeah.
what I'm
I
now.
remember that first conversation we sat down. I was like, well, why don't you have 10 other clients like me? And it was just having that belief in yourself that something like that was even possible. And then, well, look where you are now, serving people in a much more aligned way. It's beautiful.
And that was once I didn't know who my ideal client was. I had to have several clients through that business model first to then go, okay, this is my ideal client. And see the joy that I had working on your ads
Yeah. Yeah. So
and your
good.
copy and the fun things that we put on the pictures. And, just everything about that was just so joyful. And yet the
Yeah.
other clients they were great clients. I mean, I've called in always spiritual clients, all of them were, but there was just more joy in your business, this style of it. So I was like, it's Reiki healers and energy healers and psychic. This is where I belong, really.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. So I was sharing before we started the recording how you and I met. So I'll tell that story. And then you touched on it, but I'll go into more detail. So I've always been, not always, but in the past couple of years that I've been doing this seriously, very intuitive. And literally in my marketing plan is I wake up, I ask Spirit, how would you like for me to show up and serve? That's it. I don't have a social media content calendar. I don't have like a 12-month plan for which blog post I'm going to do. I just literally show up, say, how would you like for me to show up and serve? And so I'm doing my meditation. I'm connecting in with my team, my spirit team in that way. And they gave me the download. They said, okay, it's time for you to start a Facebook group, and it's time for you to run ads to grow your group. I'm thinking like, I don't know how to run ads. I'm not going to do that. I said, well, Spirit, if that's what you want me to do, then just connect me in with the person that's supposed to do it. I kid you not. It was later that day or the next day. Your little ad came through. It was so cute. It's just a little picture of you. And I was like, oh, I like her energy. I'm going to follow her. And I didn't reach out to you. But remember, you're setting an energetic intention, whether you like really, you weren't consciously thinking of like, oh, I'm going to call in a spiritual healer for my next client. But you had that interest. And then I'm calling in the energy of like, I need an expert who understands, a Facebook expert who understands energy. And then we magnetically attract to each other. The copy spoke for itself. And then here we are 6 months later. Really beautiful journey. But as far as like how I called you in, an ideal, we'll say co-collaborator, or call in a client, is I do a couple of things. So one of the things that I do is I create a space and I set an intention. So like right now I'm in my home office. I call this my sacred space. I'll set an intention and say, okay, guides, connect me in with whatever's for my greatest good and highest potential. And I like to do a meditative practice. You don't have to do this if it doesn't resonate. You could journal it, you could type it out, you could do a voice note. You want some way of experiencing it or documenting it in a way that feels good for you. So I tend to do a lot of guided meditation. So I'm sitting here and I picture or I allow spirit to give me what is my ideal business. So right now, my business is actually shifting gears. So in the past year, I've done a lot in building psychic school and psychic development for what many would consider to be a more secular and metaphysical approach. I'm actually getting more into like Christian mysticism and incorporating more of the biblical aspects in psychic development. So that's going to be coming. So we'll do this practice right now, right? Because I haven't yet done this for myself 100%. So we'll go through this now. So if I were to sit down and say, guys, what would you like for me to create? And we'll just work with a smaller time frame. Let's not go 5 or 10 years out. Let's just look at the next year because that feels more attainable, more manageable for some people. And you could even go shorter than that if you want to go like, what would you like for me to call in and create in the next 6 months? And depending on your senses, some people tend to hear more messages or see more messages, or they just get a sense of knowing or feeling in their body. Just make a note of what is coming through for you. So I'm starting to get images of what would come through, like what I don't want to use the word free now because we've talked about it, but my introductory offer, my complimentary gift, we'll call it a gift. And then what's coming through for my low ticket offer. So that's something like in the $20 to $100 range. And then what's coming in for my higher ticket offer. So between $500 and $1,000. And then what's coming in for my premium offer. So like one-on-one. So I start to get those visions. But before we get too far into like going out and creating things, we want to come back down and say, okay, great. Thank you guys for that vision of what's coming in for my business. Who is this in service for? Who am I serving with these offers? And for me, it's showing me a picture of who I was even just a year ago of, so often our client avatars are earlier versions of ourselves. So showing me a version of me a year ago of not just wanting to go all in and sharing psychic phenomenon with the world, but wanting to blend and merge what I call the Christ consciousness and the cosmic cauldron. Because I had so many people tell me that you couldn't do both, that it was impossible or that it was wrong, it just couldn't be done. It's not true because people have done it and I'm called to step into that space. So it's showing me that picture of me a year ago. So great. So now I have a picture of me a year ago. So whenever I am, say, going back in and creating that complimentary gift or going back in and creating that low ticket offer or going back in and creating that program, that course or that program, I'm speaking to her. I'm speaking to that version of me from 12 months ago that was like trying to figure out how to blend and merge both worlds, couldn't quite get there. Now I've understood that more. So now I can go back and speak to her, speak to that person who's been told that, oh, that's wrong, that's evil, that's witchcraft, you can't do that. Like, who are you to like, and start creating content and creating copy and creating courses and programs specifically for that avatar. Now, one other thing that I like to do is as you're tuning in, and every offer has its own energy. So right now I'm looking at business as a whole, or you're looking at your business as a whole, and you see, like, I've already mapped out, Ruth calls it her funnel, but complimentary gift, low ticket, high ticket, premium, right? So that's the journey that someone would go through. But within a particular offer, you can start to tune in and see how many people are coming through for that. So we will use, say, like a group. Right? Ruth, I know you're currently growing your group. So when you tune into your group, you start to see almost like you're in Vegas, so you know those machines where the numbers keep rolling. Okay, so you start to see the numbers rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. And you just want to settle on a number, like give it a time frame. So, okay, Spirit, how many people am I called to serve that are going to come into the group in the next month? And whatever number comes into the mind, maybe it's 100 new people. So you start to connect in with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 100 people. And you start to feel them in your field and where they are in the world. Often, because we're English speaking, we attract people from other English speaking countries. So people in Canada, people in the UK, people in Australia, you start connecting in with them. And then you're going to reel in or magnetically attract each one. I've actually, in this practice, I would pull them in, like pull the string. But what I've started doing is if you can imagine that in this center of your soul, the seat of your being here, usually in your heart space, but wherever you feel like your center is, it's like a magnet. And so we can visualize turning on the switch and turning on the magnet and then turning up the dial to full blast. So many of us, when we're manifesting, we're operating at like 10%. So we turn up that dial 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. And I see a lot of people, they start to get resistance around 60%. You just want to move through that. This is where like doubt, fear comes in of like, who are you to serve 100 people? Or who are you to serve 1,000 people? Or who are you to have this massive email list? Or who are you to have this consistent six-figure business, right? So any of that, you just want to work that off, shake that off, let go and release that and keep going up 70%, 80%, 90%, 100%. And you're going to allow just that magnetic energy to start bringing in. Remember, we're not chasing, we're not forcing, we're not pushing, we're just bringing in the next 100 people to come into your group. Well, if you're going to do this for, say, a paid offer, let's say you have a high ticket VIP program, like a mastermind, and you're feeling 10 people in your mastermind, calling in, magnetically attracting. Again, coming back to your vision for your business, coming back to your client avatar, that version of you, or whatever other avatar spirit's given you. And then each one coming in magnetically. And it's almost as if there's a cord between your heart and their heart. And you can feel it, right? Or you can see it in your mind's eye, and you allow that for them to be drawn to you through that core connection. How does that sound? I know you and I have done this practice, but how was that going back through that?
It's fun. It's like I can almost see their faces on a couple of them.
Yeah, yeah. And you've gone through psychic school too. So I know your clairvoyance there is turned up quite a bit. But even if you can't see what they look like, you can feel their energy. And sometimes too, when you're tuning into this, you start to get their questions of what they're wondering, like what sort of questions, like think about what sort of questions would they be Googling right now and putting into the search bar. And those are the questions that you need to be answering in your copy in those exact words.
I'm just hearing like overwhelmed. I'm just so overwhelmed with so many choices. Do I use AI? Do I use this? And they're being bombarded with so much options, and most of those options aren't good. And it's like, simplify. You're just to simplify that. Let's get simple first. You build on the fancy stuff later.
Yeah.
Like major overwhelm, just like,
Yeah. It's
I
decision paralysis too,
need.
right? Or they get so caught up on picking their branding colors and they never actually create an offer that's going to make them money.
Yeah. Or they write the landing page, it's just really bland and it's about the thing. Nobody cares about the thing. They want the result. So there's where the energetics is like massively missing. And most people, what I see, it's like I'll read an ad or a landing page, it's like, oh, cool, you got a thing. What is that? That doesn't mean anything to me. Is that thing going to help me? Is it going to simplify my life? Is it going to make what I'm doing online more obvious as to whether it's working or not? Those kind of questions. that people just don't know how to answer in marketing in the beginning. With
You're
that
bringing,
personally anyway, but all the
yeah, and you're bringing up a really great point. If we're tuning into our ideal business and we're tuning into our ideal offers and we're tuning into our ideal client avatar, that future pacing is a big part of it. Of where is this relationship between you and that soulmate client going to take you? What does that look like 3 to 6 months from now or 6 to 12 months from now? Where are you? What's happened? And it's an important piece in manifestation. And I teach this in my courses and programs is acting as if. So write it as if it's already happened and paint that picture of what their life's going to look like 3 months from now or 6 months from now, or however long that container is or that offer is, that program, so that they can feel it and they can start to embody that now. Because essentially, at least this is what I do in my business, is connecting people to their higher selves, for them to connect with their calling, for them to pursue their purpose, for them to be able to shine their light. It's allowing them to get a taste of that, a piece of that right here, right now, so that they can know and trust that you're the right person to guide them through that journey.
Mhm. Yeah, so how that looks for you guys in business, it's basically answering like what should, the simple questions of where are they coming from? How do they get to know me? And then how is my sales working for them, my sales strategy? So those are like the three tenets of your funnel of how you're bringing your clients energetically to you, whether that be windows or jewelry or an online program. Once you can answer those three questions, which is having a good funnel built, like Nicole has, then you're at the stage where you're ready for ads and you can like start putting some money into something that you know works. Or you can keep on with your organic strategies. Like right now, I'm doing very little on my organic strategy, but people are turning up in the group every day. So it's like once I get everything nailed down and I focus on that, that one might be a really great second option for me to continue with, whereas I never could figure out organic before because what I was saying was irrelevant to anybody because I didn't know my ideal client, right?
Well,
So
you weren't fully connected to yourself too, with your soul. So the more you're tuning into your own energy, and like I said, that your ideal client avatar is some version of you from a year ago or 3 years ago or 5 years ago. Doesn't matter. It's some previous version of you. You have to be able to tune in and tap into that to be able to understand the questions, the comments, the concerns, the words. And when you just make those subtle tweaks, it then starts calling and attracting those people.
mm. And it's great that you said like where are you taking them to in 6 months? I never thought of it on that. So I want you businesses out there like to think about like where are you taking these people to? Because that's really going to help you write your copy too.
Mhm.
So I want everyone in this group to be able to know how much a lead costs, know where I want you to be able to say like 20% of my leads come from what I do on TikTok, 10% come from Pinterest ads, and the majority come from Google ads or Facebook ads. That's where
Mhm.
I want you guys to be in 6 months to a year by building this funnel strategy and understanding it well enough to be able to use everything in there and the data and look at it and go, oh, okay, this stuff I did on TikTok for the last month got me 5 clients. Was it
Mhm.
worth the time, the effort? I'm boiling everything down for you into the data and the 3D and the math and the fact stuff. But Nicole's the one who helps me as well with the energetic stuff to get the right clients and be
Because I'm even like, ooh, like how can we bring the energetics into what she just said? Because that was a lot of like logical, systemic stuff you just named off,
right.
very, very masculine. Okay. So to bring that into balance with your feminine is what does that actually mean for them to understand all of that data? It means they're educated. It means they're empowered. It means that they can make informed decisions
Hmm.
in their business,
Yeah.
grounded decisions in their business,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. Like they will understand marketing. They will understand all that technical stuff that gave them the overwhelm in the beginning. And it's not actually that complex when you start to focus and you just get a system in place.
Mm. I almost get this image of like peeking behind the curtain and they can actually understand what's happening behind the curtain and not be hiding it under the rug and hoping that everything's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Look at the way like you've done it like exactly how I want them to do it. You know, you tried Facebook ads for a while, they worked fantastically. Then you tried Etsy, right? And that worked fantastically for what you wanted. And now you're shifting in a different direction. So you might end up on TikTok more. You might end up because like
Look at you speaking that into my life.
well, you never know. I don't know. I'm having great success on TikTok. Like my views on there are really good, and I'm literally doing nothing other than just hanging out there, you know. So, and that's just drawing me in that direction. So I'm feeling called to maybe focus on that a little bit for the organic. And of course, there's going to be my ads, but I'm resisting them a lot right now. I'm playing with organic. Like I really want to learn this so that I can deliver more effective
And
coaching.
here's where I'm at with the paid ads. Everything that you did for me last year was amazing. I'm so grateful. I wouldn't be where I'm at today had it not been for that. But when I'm doing this energetic alignment, it's very sneaky the way it comes in, and it's like that lack or that fear. So what I'm doing right now, for anyone that doesn't know, is I'm cleaning up my group. So Ruth was amazing. She helped me grow my group from literally nothing. It was just me to over 1,000 members in less than 6 months. But like you said, some of those members were the freebie chasers from before we adjusted those ads. Some of those people, for whatever reason, are just not in alignment. Some of those people haven't done a single thing in their group, never liked a post, never commented on anything. I want people that are fully active and fully engaged. So I'm going in and I'm removing people that I don't feel are in alignment with me or with the direction that I'm going in my business, or they're just simply inactive. And every time I come across someone that came through one of the paid ads, I think I paid for this person to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm removing them. So what does that mean? Is that a waste? Right? But it's a shifted perspective. It's like, no, like you paid for the lead. That's great. They're here. They had an opportunity to come play. It's not in alignment. Let it go. Because the more you hold on to that, and this is times 1,000. So 1,000 people, I'm literally going through each profile and looking and seeing who's in alignment, who's not. That's energy leaks. That's
Mm-hmm.
little, and it's tiny, right? They're little tiny leaks, but I think there's some folklore story of the little boy, and there's like all these little holes in the dam, and everyone's thinking, oh, they're so tiny, just leave it alone. And eventually the dam breaks and floods the city because they're not plugging up these leaks. It's sneaky that way.
Yeah. And that's a good point that you bring up. Like, no matter what you do, not everybody you bring in is going to buy from you. It doesn't matter. So you're either going to pay in money or you're going to pay in time for leads. And you want to spend like 8 hours a day chasing leads, doing the DM thing that a lot of people are doing, you know. And then if you cost that up on a time, like, I don't know, how much do you want to earn an hour? Like, we're probably not going to say minimum wage, but just start costing up the time that you take to do it organically on minimum wage. And then you start seeing how expensive, you know, leads are. And it's just the way of the world. Like 99, probably 90 some, I don't actually know what the actual percentage is, but it's a huge percentage of people you bring into your funnel won't buy. They just won't.
Mhm.
Some of them will convert later down the line, but it doesn't matter what strategy you use. And a lot of people get really defunct. Like, I got thousands of hits on my website. They'd be, yeah, but where are the hits coming from? Are they, you know, are you talking to your ideal client? Are you bringing in the right people? Those are all the questions you have to answer. Eventually,
Well,
get down to a science of I needed to spend $2,000 before I got a client.
was that me? Was that the first one after 2000?
That was like,
And here's the thing, are they experiencing your energy?
mm-hmm,
Because when I didn't, the first round, because we launched this group and grew the group specifically for psychic school, the first round of psychic school was people I already knew, but I had already cultivated relationships from the previous 2 years, and they were already in my world. They knew my energy, they trusted me, and they came into this program. So then the second round was the people that had come in, 6 months ago, but it took 3 months for them to get to know me and to trust me and to understand what I'm about and what I do and that I could help them. So then now, coming into this round, the people that signed up for this round are people that came in, 3 months ago, that again, it took them 3 months. Now, I'm not saying it takes 3 months for people to get to know you. What I'm saying is, how are people experiencing your energy? And is your energy actually in alignment with what it is that you want to be doing? Or are you putting on a mask and pretending to be something you're not just so that you can make a quick buck or hopefully make a sale?
right. Yeah, it's about being authentic. And that brings up 2 points because you're doing the energetics and I'm over here doing the masculine
We
logical.
balance each other out.
So the logical factor is it might be a 3 month turnaround, and that's something you have to understand when you're doing marketing. Because I've mentioned it before. I have a client who's a photographer, and we've been doing the ads for 2 or 3 months. He's, I'm not making any sales, and I'm like, yeah, because boudoir photography is a 3 month lead nurture. So let's say we only got 4 or 5 in the first month. By month 3, yeah, we aren't making any sales because those, it's a very small pool to buy from. But then in 6 months, those 3 months behind, now we've got 200 to 300 leads. Then they start buying. So understanding or having a vague idea, like with us, the bigger ticket programs, doing it through a group will take longer. So I'm well aware, like nothing's probably going to happen in this group. I have to work at it for 3 to 6 months potentially before it starts to really get going. And it might be by the end of the year because this is a long process for people depending on time and what they have available to build this funnel before they're even ready for ads.
And I'm thinking about like, why does it take so long for people to be ready? You have to think about, well, how were you back then? Right? If I'm looking at a client avatar of me a year ago, well, how long did it take for me to even get to that point to where I was a year ago?
Exactly.
Years, right? So it makes sense that someone would be quietly watching in the corner, not saying or doing anything. They're just kind of taking a peek and seeing what you're about, is because they're scared, right? And you have to encourage them and empower them and show them that it's a safe space and that you are being sincere and of service, and then it builds their confidence. And then when they're ready and it's aligned, they naturally buy.
Yeah. And then it comes into funnel strategy again. So if you're just focusing on group, they're not always going to see the group posts. Like I get so many group posts a day, and I'll maybe pick 1 or 2 because I don't even see what the post is. You have to go in and actually like, ooh. So you have to keep being consistent with something for them to see it and repeat the information. So a good funnel strategy is like group, but then you're emailing as well. So they're seeing the emails. So if I miss the group post, I might see the email and read the email that day, or I might see pop up on Facebook. So
And
it's
you're bringing up a really good point, right? Like group isn't the only way to do it.
Mhm.
Email is a great way. Instagram or TikTok's another great way. And you don't have to be on all the things. You have to think about, well, where was I? Where was I hanging out a year ago? This is for me, a year ago. Or where is your ideal client hanging out? Where were you hanging out? And that's where you want to be. And
Yeah,
again, whatever feels fun. Because if it's not fun, if it's not bringing you joy, I'm just being real with you, it's not going to work. Or it's
yeah,
going to work, but it's going to be like really yucky for you.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then over time, you build that up. So start with one. So I just was on Facebook, just with ads. I had no social media, no nothing. It was awful, whatever I did in social media. Did that for like 6 months. Towards the end of the year, I started. And then I implemented an email drip feed. So like not everything happens straight away. I needed the data. I needed to talk to people to figure out what drip feed I was going to do. Wrote my drip feed. It got me 2 clients. No,
Mm.
that's big ticket. So my drip feed cost me like nothing. And that actually sold for me 2 of my high ticket offers.
But
So
wasn't it better doing that than just flinging spaghetti at the wall, hoping something works?
yeah, I mean, there's merits to both. I'd say sometimes, if you're that kind of person, just fling all the spaghetti at once, because that's what I'm like that. I post on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram all at the same time. And I had a drip feed, and the drip feed wasn't what it is now that sold in the beginning. I just set it up. I had no real idea. Over time, I was like, okay, people aren't looking at this email. I'll adjust it a little bit. So it's about, as much as you can tolerate, go for it, but then adjust it and watch. So it's
Yeah.
basically put something out there, and like you say, sit back in your divine feminine, watch, see how it transpires, see how people are receptive to it. If they're not receptive, change it. Same with ads, that's why you have an ads manager, because I'm watching if people are receiving the ad well every day. If it's not, I'm tweaking something, and big changes every week, to get that ad optimized for the right people.
Yeah,
Moving,
I remember at one point we had it like 100% conversion rate. It was crazy.
that was wild. 2 weeks in a row too. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And then I'm like, hold up, something's not in alignment. I'm shifting gears. We got to shut it all down.
no worries. We'll have another one. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Same with mine. I was just like the people I was bringing through, and I was just like, oh, and I don't like being on calls, so I never wanted to do that. I knew I could, and I was
Yeah.
doing fine.
Yeah.
But the more I didn't want to do calls, and the more I realized the people coming through was just, and I was like, okay, I'm stopping this.
Yeah, and it's like so this in January would have been our third round of psychic school, and I used the same funnel that I had before. I gone in and made a couple of tweaks, and I I made sales, but it was only for the self-study option. And I'm like, well, why didn't I sell any of the group calls? And Spirit's like, because you didn't actually want to do group calls going on. So why would we give you group calls? Oh,
Right.
okay, that makes sense. Again, it's just listening in, tuning in. Like, stop trying to do something that you don't really want to do and
Hmm.
do what actually brings you joy. And then the results will come from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's aligning like, and then we go into that in the first questions in the group, like, is the business that you're in actually the one you want? And this is,
Yeah.
the questions if someone, because my husband did say at the time, like, you hate being on calls. And I'm like, yeah, but I knew this business would work for me. So
Yeah.
I knew that much. I knew I had to do this as opposed to any of the other stuff I saw online, which I knew just weren't for me. But it's like you'd ask me like in the beginning, I didn't have the skills then either to know how to fix it or change it. So I had to do it through. So if you're in something, guys, that you're maybe feeling resistance and it's not quite working, that's okay because you've learned a ton. And you have to learn that first to know where you want to go. Essentially,
Exactly. Exactly.
ask yourself the questions like, is it how it's set up? Like MLMs, you asked me what an MLM, it's multi-level marketing.
Oh yeah, I knew that, but I thought you meant something else because what I was talking to you about wasn't. But
The amount of people that came through and they've been sold so well on the market. This isn't multi-level marketing. I'm like, do you have to get other people into like your group to make you money? And they're like, yeah, well, it's multi-level marketing,
that
baby.
is, yeah. Hmm.
And not many of the platforms will let you advertise for them because it's just an ongoing not selling of anything. There are great multi-level marketing schemes out there. I buy from quite a few of the companies that are really good, but very hard to make work.
Hmm.
So it's like, are you in one of those business? Are you sure you're in the right business? Like really do your research on that. And is it set up right for you? And the great thing is about online, if it's not, we can fiddle it and change the funnel. Like how many times have you gone through a
I'm like,
different
pause
funnel?
the ads, Ruth. We're shifting gears. It's like the third time. Pause the ads, Ruth. We're
Yeah.
shifting gears.
Yeah. And it's like, it's cool. Like, don't worry about it. You can, if you're online, you can shift gears all the time until you find something you want. And you're just naturally going to do that as people change, as your avatar changes, as you change. You want less time on it. You've got more time to devote to it, like all the time. And it's having that basis and understanding a little bit of how a funnel works and, getting to the stage, Nicole, you could probably run your own ads at this point. We've done them
I
so many
have
times.
zero desire to do that. Like,
Yeah.
just going into the ads manager gives me anxiety. I'm so grateful I discovered there's an app where I could just see the highlights and not mess with the background. Like,
Yeah.
no, y'all just like PSA, for thinking about ads, please do consult Ruth because yeah, don't try and wasted so much time and so much money trying to do it on my own. I should have just taken that money and hired Ruth from the beginning. It would have
Right.
been much better. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel the same about social media. Like soon, once I get everything dialed in, I'm gonna pass that off to somebody else. Like I can't stand it. Just
No, when you're ready for that, I have referrals for you. Yeah.
yes, perfect. Oh,
Anything else?
no, this has been awesome, girl. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I'm just so excited for everyone that's growing their business. It's very much about energy and alignment. Just keep tuning in and doing what feels right for you. There's not really a right or wrong way to do things, just what feels good for you, what feels fun.
I feel like most of the people in the group right now might be in the realignment. I feel like they've got a lot of this stuff already. They don't know how to put it all in one string. That's who's in here right now. So hopefully they're getting something out of this. All right. Okay, girl. Thank you. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Take care.